Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's an India context and then there's a global context. And I think from an India context, I think we've not even started in it in any meaningful way. There's some capital that's coming on the sidelines into it. And I think a lot of people are considering the impact it will have, but we have such basic fundamental issues in the country that can be addressed and that don't necessarily function just on AI, but where AI will be a component of this of the solution. So I think in India we're still in control. I think globally, the pace at which capital goes into things has just increased, and that's a fundamental reality. I think that what we used to see as R&D dollars from companies has now moved to venture dollars from funds and going into individuals who are doing it on the outside. So you see it differently, and so therefore, when you see something like an OpenAI raise $40 billion, or then you see Blackstone putting 25 billion into AI infrastructure, SpaceX saying that they're going to put 2 billion into XAI. These are essentially what you would have seen as R&D from larger companies in the past, but now in the structure of and actually SpaceX is, you could argue, is R&D, but you're seeing that it's coming from venture dollars rather than company dollars. Now, that being said, I think the question of really has the value of the companies that are actually public, let's take NVIDIA as the prime example, is it justified? And this is a really tough one, because you could always argue that what we saw in the dot-com era was some companies were justified, some were not. And there were periods of time where Amazon looked expensive throughout, but if you bought it at any point then, you'd be really happy with it today. And there were other companies that were expensive and then eventually died. So I think the question becomes, are these guys doing some stuff that is fundamental and differentiated? And I think NVIDIA does have a strong position. I mean, they have a great product. They're clearly the ones that are delivering the infrastructure to enable a lot of this. But like we saw with DeepSeek, there could be things that come out of left field that disrupt it. And so I think we're playing a very the cycles are getting much faster. So while the amounts of capital get very high, and while people get very enthusiastic that somebody's going to dominate forever, the things that can come in and disrupt that can disrupt it significantly. And I think that that's also a reality that we have to be wary of. I mean, and we can just look, even if we look at something like Facebook. If Facebook hadn't bought Instagram, it's not really clear what Meta's fate would look like, or WhatsApp. And so you have to, I think, be in the mind space of saying there will be something that comes and changes. Are you betting on the fact that this team will continue to figure out how to go about it? And I mean, if you listen to NVIDIA's leadership team, they seem to understand what they're up against, and they seem to be progressing at a certain pace. So I think people are betting on them as much as they're betting on just the cash flow. So tech investing tends to be somewhat cash flow driven, but also very much storyline and potential driven. So it feels a bit like, sure, we could get to a bubble in this, and it could be bad because people get very enthusiastic. But on the flip side, if they navigate it, it can work. So it's not really an answer, but it's the reality of, I think, how we have to think about it. I mean, here again, it's about sentiment. It's about belief in the future. So zero interest rates helped move dollars. So you had more capital in the system, which kind of drove it. Today, it's the potential of what people think AI will do and what it will impact that's driving it. So you will always have different factors that drive valuation up, right? And so if you have excess capital in the system because interest rates are low, then that's going to drive valuation up. But and that's not necessarily healthy either. And today's hype driving it up is really around the belief that, my God, the world is going to change tomorrow. And so therefore we need to be a part of it. And there are varying views as to what's going to happen tomorrow. And I don't think anybody can really say what's going to happen tomorrow. So therefore people will grab onto the story that seems the most exciting and interesting and believable and say that now AI is going to change how everything works. And if you take that storyline, then you say, my God, I need to invest everything in AI. And so, or I need to allocate more to AI. And I think we've seen this in the past in various cycles where Bitcoin was going to change everything. Even today, we sit there and we say, look, what is the use case of crypto? And we can't put our finger on a effective use case of it. Yet the price of Bitcoin keeps going up because there's a view that says, well, what if it does happen? What if something does get found out here? And if I go back and think in the 2000s, in the late 90s, actually, 99, 2000, there were articles that were still saying the internet is not for real. It's not good for anything but just sending messages to each other, emails. Right now, at that point in time, and I'm just saying 20, 25 years ago, people did not imagine that, we would be sitting across continents, video calling each other, recording it, putting it out on a platform that other people will stream and access. I mean, you hadn't thought about financial transactions. You hadn't thought about any of these things. And so it happened. So what if the shift in AI is that? And what if the foundational stuff is that? And so therefore, what if I need to get in on the ground floor of all that today? Let me allocate a percentage of my capital to that. And so everybody starts to do that. That percentage adds up. And so then you get a lot of excitement and enthusiasm and you get the values go up. So I don't think that, I think we should be cognizant of the fact that various factors will drive up values of companies. Excess capital in the system is one, which is what zero interest rates were, but sentiment or belief in a possible future is the other, which is what we're seeing now. Yeah, so we're not, it's not fundamental tech, right? It's not foundational tech, but it is tech-enabled businesses. And I think that is the market opportunity that exists. Again, if you look at India's dynamics in terms of the consumer, the large base of consumers are buying fragmented, unbranded products. The opportunity exists to build the brands for these customers, and they will be built with tech-driven solutions. So whether tech will be a part of the production, the distribution, or the customer acquisition, tech is going to play a role. So Nika very much uses tech in terms of how they reach customers in their online world, but now they've definitely gone offline, and the omni-channel side has become important, which is what we talked about last week. And so I don't think we can look at this and say, hey, look, tech has changed everything. But similarly, Amazon is very much a logistics company as much as it is a tech and e-commerce company, or it's a tech infrastructure company from an AWS side. So I don't think you can bucket companies into one or the other. We can say that these are companies that are changing the way in which products and services are being delivered and given to customers versus the old world. And so in that context, yes, it's happening. And yes, it's the storyline that's more exciting, right? Who wants to, I mean, no offense, but who wants to really get excited about fertilizers or about just oil? I mean, these are not exciting stories, but when you start to think about and talk about how people can get products in 2 minutes and how that's going to be, I mean, the debates you can have about, does the model work? Does the model not work? We go through it all the time internally, right? Is this real? Is it not real? What is it going to look like? And so it will dominate the narrative. And I think that that's helpful to allow those companies an opportunity to get some recognition, to get some interest, and then hopefully they do something positive with that to build businesses. And that's actually what happened with the dot-com boom. In the late 90s, these were all ideas. These were all interesting thoughts that people were able to craft into storylines that then excited people and enthused them about what the future could be. But oftentimes, like I said, the future takes a little longer to get there. So it's there's that statement, we overestimate the impact in the short run and underestimate the impact in the long run. And I think that's what we're going through here, where we're saying that, look, this stuff is good. So like a delivery, they're all enabling things, and they're great things and important things to be enabled for the future. But we have to watch and see whether that future happens right now or whether that future is going to be a little bit further ahead. And the players might shift then. And I think that that's great that we're hitting that point where the market's willing to play that part of the game as well.